AITA for kicking my roommate out after finding out he's been secretly recording my cooking videos and making money off them. I, 27, love cooking and have been posting recipe videos on TikTok for about a year. Nothing major, just casual home cooking with around 5K followers. I don't monetize and do it purely for fun. My roommate Jake, 29, never showed interest in my cooking except to eat it. He works from home as a social media consultant, but is always vague about his clients. Last week, a follower DM'd me saying they found a YouTube channel with my recipes getting millions of views. I checked it out and was shocked to find professionally edited versions of my cooking videos. Different angles, close-ups, I never filmed, and voiceover that wasn't mine but sounded eerily similar. I confronted Jake and he confessed he's been secretly recording me cooking from hidden angles in our kitchen for 8 months. He's been editing them, adding commentary, and posting them on his channel that has 800K subscribers. He's making thousands in ad revenue monthly. When I demanded he take the videos down, he refused, saying he improved my content and did all the real work of editing and marketing. He offered me 10% of the revenue going forward. I told him he had 48 hours to pack his things and leave. Now, mutual friends are saying I overreacted and should have worked out a deal instead since Jake helped my recipes reach a wider audience. My name isn't on the videos, but it's clearly my hands, my kitchen, and my recipes. AITA for kicking him out instead of partnering with him? Edit. Thanks for the overwhelming response. To answer common questions. 1. Yes, I've consulted a lawyer about copyright/privacy violations. 2. Our lease allows for removal with 30 days notice, which I'm giving him. 3. I found 3 hidden cameras in kitchen fixtures that I had no knowledge of. AITA for telling my sister's boyfriend he's not invited to my wedding after he proposed at my engagement party. My 28 fiancé Jake proposed 3 months ago, and we decided to host an engagement party last weekend. We invited about 40 people, including my sister Emma, 26F, and her boyfriend Mark, 29M, who've been dating for 8 months. During the dinner toast, Mark suddenly stood up, clinked his glass, and announced he had something important to ask. Before anyone could react, he got down on one knee and proposed to Emma, right there in front of everyone. Emma said yes, looking surprised but happy, and half the guests started cheering while the other half looked uncomfortable. Jake and I just stood there frozen. The rest of the night became about their engagement instead of ours. Yesterday I called Emma and told her that while I'm happy for her, what Mark did was incredibly inappropriate. I explained that we're not inviting Mark to our wedding in 4 months because I don't trust him not to pull another stunt. Emma went ballistic, saying I was being petty and jealous. She threatened not to come if Mark isn't invited. My parents are split. Dad thinks I'm justified. Mom says I should be the bigger person and invite Mark anyway to keep the peace. Jake supports whatever decision I make. AITA for banning my future bill from our wedding? I don't want to cause a family rift, but I also don't want someone who hijacked our special moment to potentially ruin our actual wedding day. Edit, wow, this blew up. Thanks for all the responses. Some clarifications. 1, no, Emma didn't know about the proposal beforehand. She told me Mark wanted it to be a surprise for everyone. 2, Mark has a history of making everything about himself at family gatherings.
AITA for refusing to give my rainbow baby special treatment over my other children. My husband and I, both 35, have 3 kids. Our 10-year-old twins, boy and girl, and our 4-year-old daughter, who's what people call a rainbow baby, born after we lost a pregnancy. My mother-in-law has always been overly attached to our youngest, constantly referring to her as special and a miracle. Last weekend was our twins' birthday. We planned a small celebration at a local park with cake and presents. My mother-in-law showed up with a mountain of gifts, but they were all for our 4-year-old. When I questioned this, she said, "The twins have each other, but my rainbow grandbaby needs extra love." I pulled her aside and firmly told her this behavior needs to stop. I explained that while we cherish all our children equally, she's creating an unhealthy dynamic by treating our youngest like she's more important. I mentioned the twins were already noticing and feeling hurt. She burst into tears and left the party early. Now my husband's entire family is blowing up my phone, saying I'm ungrateful for the blessing of our rainbow baby and that I should be making up for lost time by giving her special treatment. My husband initially agreed with me, but is now wavering under family pressure. The twins thanked me privately for standing up for them, which broke my heart because they shouldn't have to thank a parent for treating them equally. AITA for insisting all our children deserve the same love and attention regardless of the circumstances of their birth. Edit. Thanks for all the support. To clarify, yes, we openly discuss our loss with age-appropriate language, but we don't use it to elevate one child above others. And no, my mother-in-law hasn't always been like this. It's gotten progressively worse as our youngest gets older.
AITA for making my 12-year-old sister cry by not allowing her to use my deceased wife's makeup collection. My 34 male wife passed away from cancer 9 months ago. She was a professional makeup artist and had an extensive collection of high-end products worth thousands of dollars. I've kept her makeup studio exactly as she left it. It's a special space that helps me feel connected to her. Last weekend, my parents visited with my 12-year-old sister Lily. While I was cooking dinner, Lily disappeared for about 30 minutes. When I went looking for her, I found her in my wife's studio, trying on several expensive products, including some limited edition items my wife had cherished. I immediately told her to stop and explained these weren't toys, they were special to my wife and me. Lily started crying, saying she just wanted to feel pretty like her big sister. My wife had often done Lily's makeup for special occasions. My parents heard the commotion and got involved. They said I was being cruel to a child who was also grieving and suggested I should give Lily some of the makeup since it's just sitting there collecting dust anyway, and my wife would have wanted her to have it. I refused and asked them to leave. My mother later texted that I'm holding on to material things instead of healing, and that I'm punishing Lily for missing my wife. AITA for not wanting a 12-year-old to use my deceased wife's professional makeup collection. I'm not ready to part with anything of hers yet, and some of those items were the last things she touched. Edit. Thank you for the supportive comments. To clarify, yes, Lily knew this room was off limits. And no, I haven't denied her other keepsakes from my wife. I gave her several framed photos and a few of my wife's favorite books that they used to read together.
AITA for refusing to let my pregnant sister and her kids move into my house after she got evicted. My sister, 32F, has made a series of bad financial decisions over the years. She has 3 kids, 7, 5, 3, from 2 different fathers, neither of whom pays consistent child support. Last month, she announced she's pregnant again with boyfriend 3, who promptly disappeared when he found out. 2 days ago, she called me sobbing because she's being evicted for not paying rent for 4 months. She asked if she and her kids could move into my spare bedroom just until she gets back on her feet. Here's the thing. I, 29, bought my house last year after saving for a decade. It's a 2-bedroom that I've meticulously renovated. The second bedroom is my home office where I run my small business that pays all my bills. I told her I couldn't accommodate 5 people in my small house, especially with another baby on the way. I offered to loan her first month's rent and security deposit for a new place instead. She exploded, saying I was heartless for not helping my own blood and that I was abandoning her children. She reminded me that our parents are deceased and we only have each other. She's now telling everyone in our extended family that I'm letting her and her kids become homeless. My aunt called to tell me I should sacrifice for family and that my sister needs support now more than ever. My cousin suggested I could just work at a coffee shop instead of needing a home office. AITA for refusing to let my sister and her kids move in when I technically have the space, even if it would severely impact my life and business. Thanks for all the responses. To answer some questions, yes, I've helped her financially multiple times before, and no, she's never paid me back. She's turned down my offers to help her apply for housing assistance because that's for poor people.
AITA for kidnapping my neighbor's dog after they left him outside in freezing weather. I live in Minnesota where it's been below 0 for weeks. My next-door neighbors got a husky puppy, 8 months old in the summer, but clearly have no idea how to care for him. They leave him outside for hours regardless of weather. Yesterday morning, it was -15 DEGF with wind chill making it feel like 30 DEGF. I woke up at 6 a.m. to their dog howling. He'd been outside all night in their backyard. No proper shelter, just a thin plastic doghouse that offers almost no protection. I went over and knocked repeatedly, but nobody answered. Their cars were there. The poor dog was shivering uncontrollably. I checked their gate, found it unlocked, and made a split-second decision to bring him to my house. I left a note saying, "I have your dog. He was freezing to death. Call me," with my number. I gave him water, food, and a warm place to sleep. He had ice in his fur and was clearly distressed. The owners didn't call until 4 p.m. When they finally did, they were furious, accusing me of trespassing and theft. They demanded I return their dog immediately. I told them I'd already called animal control to report the neglect, and they threatened to call the police on me. Animal control came, took my statement, and returned the dog after the owners promised to keep him inside. Now the entire neighborhood is divided, half saying I saved the dog's life, half saying I should have minded my own business. AITA for stealing my neighbor's dog to protect him from the extreme cold? Thank you all for the support. Animal Control is following up and has warned them. I'm documenting any further incidents. Also, yes, Huskies are cold-resistant dogs, but not puppies left in extreme temperatures without proper shelter and no access to water, which freezes.
AITA for destroying a 10-year friendship over a $14 lunch bill? Yesterday was the final straw in what I now realize has been a decade-long pattern of financial manipulation by my former best friend. I, 31 female, have known Sarah, 30 female, since college. For 10 years, I've noticed she forgets her wallet, claims apps aren't working when it's time to split bills, or says she'll get me next time, which never happens. I've probably covered thousands in meals, drinks, and event tickets that were never repaid. I finally decided to start tracking, and in the last 3 months alone, she owes me $347. I brought it up gently multiple times, and she always has an excuse or makes me feel guilty for keeping score. Yesterday, we met for lunch. As expected, when the $28 bill came, $14 each, Sarah patted her pockets and said, "Oh no, I left my wallet at home again." I simply replied, "That's unfortunate. I'll pay my half and you'll need to figure out yours." The waitress stood there awkwardly while Sarah turned bright red. She suddenly found a credit card in her phone case, but spent the rest of lunch in cold silence. After, she unleashed a tirade about how I humiliated her over $14 and that real friends don't keep tabs. I finally snapped and laid out the entire pattern, including the specific amounts from my tracking. I told her our friendship was over unless she repaid what she owes and promised to stop taking advantage. She's now telling our mutual friends I'm financially abusive and obsessed with money. Half are saying I should have handled it privately, not in public. AITA for finally putting my foot down over what seems like a trivial amount. I'm overwhelmed by the responses. To clarify, yes, Sarah. AITA for refusing to share my inheritance with my half-siblings after they excluded me for years. My father abandoned my mom and me when I was 3. He went on to have 3 more kids with his new wife and basically pretended I didn't exist. I'm now 27. 2 months ago, I received a call informing me that my paternal grandmother had passed away. To everyone's shock, she left me 50% of her estate, approximately $180, and divided the other 50% between my 3 half-siblings. Apparently, she had tried repeatedly to connect with me over the years, but my father intercepted her letters and blocked her attempts. The lawyer explained my grandmother had kept tabs on me through distant relatives and always felt guilty about my father's abandonment. She specified in her will that my inheritance was to make up for lost time and opportunities. My half-siblings, 24M, 22F, 19F, are furious. They've been calling and messaging nonstop saying I don't deserve the money because I wasn't part of the family and didn't even know Grandma. They've demanded I split my portion equally with them since they were the ones who actually had a relationship with her. Here's the thing, I met them exactly once at a family funeral when I was 15. They made it clear I wasn't welcome and called me the mistake behind adults' backs. I refused to share the inheritance and blocked their numbers. Now my father, who I haven't spoken to in years, is calling, saying I'm tearing the family apart and should do the right thing. AITA for keeping the inheritance my grandmother specifically wanted me to have. Thank you for the overwhelming support. To address some questions, yes, I've secured the money in accounts only I can access, and no, I never knew my grandmother was trying to reach out. Learning that my father intercepted her attempts to know me has been its own kind of heartbreak. AITA for having my sister's child removed from my son's wedding party the day before the ceremony. My son, 27, got married last weekend to his wonderful fiancée, 26F. They planned a formal, elegant wedding with a very specific color scheme and aesthetic. The wedding party included my nephew, 7M, my sister's only child, as the ring bearer. At the rehearsal dinner the night before the wedding, my sister announced she had let my nephew dye his hair bright neon green that morning as a special treat. His entire head was fluorescent green. My son and his fiancée were visibly shocked but tried to remain polite. After dinner, the bride pulled me aside in tears. The green hair would completely clash with their carefully planned color palette and professional photos. She asked if there was any way to fix it before tomorrow. I approached my sister privately and explained the situation, asking if she could try washing it out or using temporary color spray to tone it down. She laughed and said, "It's just hair. They need to lighten up. It's not like he's the bride." After discussing with my son and his fiancée, we reluctantly asked my nephew to not participate in the ceremony but still attend as a guest. My sister went ballistic, calling us shallow and materialistic for caring about something so trivial. She left with my nephew and skipped the wedding entirely. She's now telling our entire family that we humiliated a child over hair color and that we're terrible people. My son and his bride got beautiful photos, but there's now a massive family rift. AIT for prioritizing the bride and groom's wishes on their wedding day over my nephew's hair? Many are asking if my sister knew about the formal nature of the wedding. Yes, absolutely. The entire wedding party had been given specific grooming guidelines months in advance, including no unconventional hair colors. My sister received and acknowledged these guidelines. AITA for telling my boyfriend he can't bring his 5-year-old daughter on our vacation after he already promised her. My boyfriend 34 and I 31F have been together for just over a year. He has a 5-year-old daughter from his previous marriage who he sees every other weekend. I've met her about a dozen times, and while she's a sweet kid, I'm not really a kid person and have been clear about this from the beginning. 3 months ago, I booked a surprise week-long vacation to Hawaii for his birthday. All-inclusive, adults-owned resort, expensive restaurants, snorkeling, hiking, the works. I showed him the itinerary last night, and he was initially thrilled, but then immediately asked if his daughter could come. I explained that I specifically chose an adults-owned resort and that adding a child would completely change the nature of the vacation. He then revealed he had already told his daughter about going to Hawaii with Daddy because he had a feeling I was planning something special for his birthday. When I stood my ground, he accused me of being selfish and said I was forcing him to choose between me and his daughter. He said he can't bear to tell her she can't come now that he promised. His ex-wife is now also involved, texting me about how heartbroken her daughter is. I offered to plan a separate child-friendly vacation later this year, but he says it's this or nothing. I've already paid non-refundable deposits of over $4,000. AITA for not wanting to change our romantic getaway into a family vacation with a 5-year-old I barely know. Thanks for all the responses. To clarify, no, he didn't contribute financially to this trip. And yes, I specifically told him months ago I was planning something special just for us for his birthday, which is why his having a feeling comment felt so manipulative. AITA for refusing to drive my pregnant coworker to work after finding out she's been secretly badmouthing me. I have been carpooling with my coworker Anna, 32F, for the past 4 months. She's 7 months pregnant and doesn't feel comfortable driving, plus her car is unreliable. I've been picking her up and dropping her off daily, adding about 30 minutes to my commute each way. I never asked for gas money because she's going through a tough time financially as a soon-to-be single mom. Last week, I forgot my phone at work and went back to get it. As I approached our department, I overheard Anna talking to 3 other coworkers in the break room. She was mocking my basic car, calling me a tryhard who thinks she's better than everyone, and laughing about how I'm so desperate for friends that I'm willing to drive her around for free. I walked in, grabbed my phone without saying anything, and left. The next morning, I texted Anna that I could no longer drive her. I didn't explain why. She's been bombarding me with calls and texts saying I'm leaving her stranded with no transportation. Our manager asked me to reconsider since Anna's been arriving late every day. Several coworkers are now giving me the cold shoulder, saying I'm being cruel to a pregnant woman who's just hormonal. I haven't told anyone what I overheard because I don't want to create more workplace drama. Anna has now offered to pay me $20/week for gas, but I'm still refusing. AITA for not driving someone who is taking advantage of my kindness and talking behind my back. Thank you for the support. To clarify, yes, public transportation is available, but would add an hour to her commute. And no, I don't believe pregnancy gives you a free pass to treat people poorly.
AITA for giving my niece a book about puberty when she asked me questions. Now her parents won't speak to me. I, 31F, am a pediatric nurse and have always been close with my niece Emma, 10F. Last weekend, she was staying at my place while my brother and Sil had a weekend getaway. During our time together, Emma started asking me questions about periods, body changes, and why some girls in her class were different now. She seemed confused and a little anxious. I answered her questions honestly, but age appropriately, like I would with any patient. When she kept asking more questions, I remembered I had a copy of The Care and Keeping of You, a widely respected puberty book for girls that I often recommend to parents. I showed it to Emma, and she was instantly engrossed. When her parents picked her up, she excitedly told them about the book and asked if she could keep it. My brother's face turned red, and my Sil quickly ushered Emma to the car. An hour later, I got a furious call from them saying I had overstepped and robbed them of a special parenting moment. They said they were planning to have the talk with Emma when the time was right and accused me of undermining their parenting. It's been 5 days and they're still not speaking to me. My parents are split. Mom thinks I did the right thing by answering Emma's questions. Dad thinks I should have redirected Emma to ask her parents. AITA for giving my niece accurate information about puberty when she directly asked me. Thank you for all the responses. To clarify, no, I didn't discuss anything sexual, just basic anatomy and physical changes. And yes, I've offered to apologize to my brother and Sil for not checking with them first, but They haven't responded.
AITA for calling the police on my neighbor for repeatedly stealing my packages. I, 29F, moved into a new apartment building 6 months ago. About 2 months in, I noticed packages were going missing. Not every package, but anything that looked like it might be valuable. I set up a small camera above my door, allowed by my lease, and caught my neighbor Mark, 40 SM, taking my packages within minutes of delivery. The footage clearly showed him checking for delivery notifications, waiting for the driver to leave, then quickly grabbing my stuff. I confronted Mark politely at first, showing him the footage and asking for my things back. He denied everything despite clear video evidence. I then reported it to our building manager, who said they'd look into it, but did nothing. After losing 3 more packages, including medication I need, I finally called the police and filed a report with my video evidence. They arrested Mark for theft. Now I'm getting hate messages from Mark's girlfriend and several neighbors saying I'm an entitled Karen who ruined a man's life over some Amazon junk. They're claiming he lost his job because of the arrest and that I should have worked it out neighbor to neighbor. The packages he stole totaled nearly $500 value, including irreplaceable birthday gifts from my late grandmother's collection that my mom had sent me. AITA for involving police instead of continuing to try to resolve this informally? Edit. Thanks for all the responses. To clarify, yes, I tried talking to him multiple times before calling police, and no, the building would not let me change units or install a secure package box. His criminal record shows this isn't his first theft charge. AITA for telling my mother-in-law she can either follow our parenting rules or stop seeing her grandchildren. My 34th mother-in-law has always been overbearing, but things have escalated since we had kids, twins, 6. She constantly undermines our parenting decisions, giving them sugar before bed when we've said no, telling them they don't need to listen to us, and buying excessive gifts after we've asked her to scale back. The final straw came last weekend. Our daughter has a severe peanut allergy that can cause anaphylaxis. We've explained this to Mill repeatedly, showing her how to use the EpiPen and stressing the seriousness. While babysitting, she made cookies with peanut butter because she didn't think a little bit would hurt and wanted to build up her immunity. Our daughter had a reaction and had to be rushed to the ER. She's okay now, but it was terrifying. When confronted, MIL said we're overprotective and that in her day, kids didn't have all these allergies. She refused to acknowledge the danger and instead criticized our parenting. I lost it and told her she either respects our rules completely or she won't be allowed unsupervised time with the kids anymore. My husband agrees with the decision but says I was too harsh in my delivery. Mill is now crying to extended family that I'm keeping her grandchildren from her and that I disrespected her experience as a mother. Half the family thinks I'm justified given the medical emergency. The other half thinks I should apologize for my tone. AITA for giving my mother-in-law this ultimatum after she endangered my child's health? Thank you for all the support. To clarify, no, she will never be babysitting again. The supervised visits only option is us being present at all times during short family gatherings. And yes, we are taking the allergy very seriously. AITA for selling the family vacation home without telling my siblings after they refused to help with maintenance for years. When our parents died 5 years ago, they left their lake house to all 4 of us siblings equally. It's been in our family for 40 plus years and worth about $650, okay? The problem? I live only 30 minutes away while my siblings all live 5+ hours away. For 5 years, I've been the one maintaining it, mowing the lawn, fixing leaks, paying for a new roof, handling winter pipe concerns, everything. I've spent nearly $42K of my own money on repairs and countless hours of labor. Every time I asked my siblings to contribute financially or come help with maintenance, I got excuses. We're too busy. Money's tight. That's just part of being the closest sibling, etc. Yet they all still used the cabin several times a year, often leaving messes I had to clean up. Last year, I told them clearly, either we create a fair maintenance schedule and expense fund, or we sell the place. They unanimously voted to keep it, but then continued to do absolutely nothing to help. So last month, I contacted a lawyer who confirmed that since we all had equal ownership, I could force a sale. I sold it to a lovely family for above asking price. Each sibling received their 25% share, $162K each. The absolute meltdown that followed was nuclear. My siblings are saying I stole their inheritance and destroyed family history. They claim they would have helped if I had just asked more clearly. My brother is threatening legal action. Lawyer says he has no case. AITA for selling a property I was stuck caring for alone despite splitting the proceeds fairly? Edit. Thanks for all the responses. To clarify, yes, I documented every request for help over the years with dates and responses. And no, none of my siblings ever contributed a single dollar to maintenance, property taxes, or insurance. AITA for refusing to let my stepdaughter wear my late daughter's prom dress. My daughter Emily passed away in a car accident 3 years ago. She was 17 and had just bought her dream prom dress, a designer gown we saved for months to afford. I've kept it preserved in my closet along with other special items of hers. I, 43F, remarried a year ago to John, 45M, who has a daughter, Maddie, 18F. We have a cordial relationship, not close, but respectful. Yesterday, Maddie was at our house when she found Emily's prom dress. While looking for something in my closet, with permission, I was helping her find old photos. She immediately asked if she could wear it to her upcoming prom. I was caught off guard and gently explained that the dress was Emily's and has tremendous sentimental value to me. I offered to take her shopping and help pay for a new dress instead. Maddie seemed to understand initially, but later that night, John confronted me, saying I made his daughter cry. He said I was being selfish by letting a beautiful dress go to waste when Emily couldn't use it anymore. He suggested letting Maddie wear it would be a way of honoring Emily's memory. I broke down and told him I couldn't bear seeing someone else wear the dress Emily never got to wear. Now John is giving me the cold shoulder and saying I'm not trying hard enough to blend our families. AITA for wanting to preserve this one thing that was special to my daughter? Edit, thank you all for your support. To clarify, Maddie and Emily never met, and no, John and Maddie didn't know Emily. We met after Emily's passing. And yes, I've been fully supportive of Maddie in other ways, attending all her school events and celebrating her accomplishment. AITA for exposing my roommate's secret OnlyFans at Thanksgiving dinner after she kept stealing my clothes. I have been living with Jess, 26F, for about a year. We were casual friends from college who reconnected when we both needed roommates. About 2 months ago, I noticed my clothes going missing. Not just any clothes, but my expensive pieces, designer dresses, silk blouses, etc. At first, I thought I was being forgetful, but then I saw a photo of Jess on Instagram wearing my dress that had disappeared. I confronted her and she admitted she'd borrowed some items but promised to return them. When I checked my closet the next day, everything was back but smelled like perfume and smoke. 2 weeks later, more clothes vanished. This time, I did some digging and discovered she has an OnlyFans account where she's modeling my clothes in explicit content. She's made thousands from subscribers while literally wearing my property. I confronted her again, and she laughed it off, saying no one knows they're your clothes, and that I should be flattered. They look good enough for her page. She refused to stop or compensate me. Fast forward to Thanksgiving at her parents' house. She invited me since I couldn't go home. When her dad made a toast about how proud he was of her social media marketing career, I snapped and said, "You mean her OnlyFans where she models stolen clothes?" The table went silent, her parents were shocked, Jess burst into tears and ran out. I was asked to leave and took an expensive Uber home. Now, mutual friends are saying I went nuclear by outing her secret side hustle to her conservative family instead of handling it privately. AITA for exposing her after she repeatedly stole from me? To those asking, yes, I tried everything before this point. I changed my door lock, she complained to landlord, threatened small claims court, she said good luck proving they're yours, and even offered to let her borrow clothes if she'd just ask first.
AITA for getting a student suspended after he kept mocking my disability? I, 16M, was born with one arm. I've always tried to have a positive attitude about it, and most of my classmates have been cool, except for this one guy, Tyler, 17M, who transferred to our school this year. From day one, Tyler's been making jokes about my arm. He does impressions of me behind my back, calls me Captain Hook, hides things on my right side, and constantly asks if I need a hand with anything, then laughs hysterically at his own joke. I tried ignoring him, then asked him to stop, then got more firm. Nothing worked. Teachers would tell him to knock it off, but they never actually did anything. My friends stood up for me, but Tyler just called them the Cripple Protection Squad. Last week in gym class, Tyler knocked my water bottle over accidentally and filmed me struggling to pick it up while he narrated like a nature documentary about the one-armed species in its natural habitat. He posted it on Snapchat. I'd had enough. I went straight to the principal with screenshots of the Snapchat story, a list of every incident for the past 3 months, dates, times, witnesses, and recordings from 2 separate occasions when he harassed me. My state has one-party consent for recording. Tyler got suspended for 2 weeks and removed from all our shared classes. Now half the school is calling me a snitch. Tyler's girlfriend says I overreacted to jokes and ruined his college applications. Even some of my friends say I should have just handled it like a man instead of going to administration. AITA for finally reporting the constant harassment. Thanks for all the support. To answer some questions, no, my parents don't know the full extent. Dad works nights. Mom has health issues. I try not to add stress. And yes, I did try talking to counselors twice before going to the principal, but nothing changed. AITA for getting a student suspended after he kept mocking my disability. I, 16 me, was born with one arm. I've always tried to have a positive attitude about it, and most of my classmates have been cool, except for this one guy, Tyler, 17 me, who transferred to our school this year. From day one, Tyler's been making jokes about my arm. He does impressions of me behind my back, calls me Captain Hook, hides things on my right side, and constantly asks if I need a hand with anything, then laughs hysterically at his own joke. I tried ignoring him, then asked him to stop, then got more firm. Nothing worked. Teachers would tell him to knock it off, but they never actually did anything. My friends stood up for me, but Tyler just called them the Cripple Protection Squad. Last week in gym class, Tyler knocked my water bottle over accidentally and filmed me struggling to pick it up while he narrated like a nature documentary about the one-armed species in its natural habitat. He posted it on Snapchat. I'd had enough. I went straight to the principal with screenshots of the Snapchat story, a list of every incident for the past 3 months, dates, times, witnesses, and recordings from 2 separate occasions when he harassed me. My state has one-party consent for recording. Tyler got suspended for 2 weeks and removed from all our shared classes. Now half the school is calling me a snitch. Tyler's girlfriend says I overreacted to jokes and ruined his college applications. Even some of my friends say I should have just handled it like a man instead of going to administration. AITA for finally reporting the constant harassment? Edit, thanks for all the support. To answer some questions, no, my parents don't know the full extent. Dad works nights, mom has health issues, I try not to add stress. And yes, I did try talking to counselors twice before going to the principal, but nothing changed.
AITA for replacing my roommate's expensive plant with a fake one. I, 28, have been living with my roommate Sarah, 26F, for about 8 months now. Everything was fine until the plant incident. Sarah has this monstera plant she's obsessed with. She talks to it, measures its leaves, and even plays classical music for it. Whatever, it's her thing. The problem started when I accidentally knocked it over while vacuuming 3 weeks ago. The pot broke and some leaves got damaged. Sarah lost it. She told me the plant cost $300. Who pays that for a plant? And that it was irreplaceable because it was a rare variegated specimen her late grandmother gave her. She demanded I pay for a replacement. I felt terrible but couldn't afford $300, so I found a really good fake monstera online for $40. It looked identical to her old one, same size, similar pot. I even added some soil on top to make it look real. I set it up in the same spot and waited. Here's where I might be TA. Sarah came home, looked at it, and thanked me for saving her plant. She didn't even notice it was fake. She's been watering it for 2 weeks now, taking pictures for her plant Instagram and telling me how resilient it is. My boyfriend says I should tell her the truth, but honestly, she seems happier now. The fake plant won't die, and I saved $260. Plus, she was being dramatic about the price. I Googled, and these plants are like $50, $100 max. AITA for not telling her it's fake? I feel like I'm doing her a favor. Wow, this blew up. No, I can't tell her now. She'd be even more upset after thinking it survived. AITA for ruining my sister's wedding by bringing my service dog. My sister Amy, 31F, got married this past weekend at a supposedly small, intimate ceremony that somehow had 150 guests. I, 27F, have a service dog, Max, who I need for my seizure disorder. He's perfectly trained, doesn't bark, and stays by my side always. When Amy sent invitations, I naturally assumed Max was included since, he's medically necessary for me to function. I RSVP'd normally. 2 days before the wedding, Amy texts me. Just to be clear, the dog isn't coming. Mom's new boyfriend is allergic. I explained Max isn't optional and offered solutions, sitting far from the boyfriend, keeping Max in a specific area, etc. She refused and said, just leave him home for 1 day, take your meds. I tried explaining seizure dogs don't work that way, but she hung up. My parents sided with her, saying I was making her day about me. I decided to go with Max anyway. At the ceremony, Amy spotted Max and had a complete meltdown. She started screaming that I deliberately ruined her wedding while her new husband awkwardly tried to calm her down. The ceremony was delayed 20 minutes while she cried in the bridal suite. The kicker? The allergic boyfriend wasn't even that allergic. He took a Claritin and was fine sitting across the room from us. Now my entire family is blowing up my phone saying I'm an attention-seeking AA who couldn't let my sister have one special day. Amy hasn't spoken to me since and posted passive-aggressive quotes about toxic family on social media. AITA for bringing my medically necessary service animal to my sister's wedding? Thanks for all the supportive comments. And yes, I've checked service dogs are legally allowed everywhere in my state, even when someone has allergies. AITA for telling my neighbors their baby is boring and refusing to babysit. My neighbors, the Johnsons, both 34, just had their first baby 4 months ago. Since then, they've become those parents who think their kid is the most fascinating thing on the planet. I live in the apartment next door in WFH as a graphic designer. The Johnsons and I used to be friendly, occasional dinners, helping with packages, that sort of thing. Last week, Mrs. Johnson knocked on my door at 9 a.m. while I was in the middle of a client call. She was holding their baby and asked if I could watch him for just an hour because their babysitter canceled and they had an important appointment. I explained I was literally in the middle of work and couldn't babysit. She looked shocked and said, "But it's just for an hour. Don't you want to spend time with little Oliver?" Here's where I might be TA. I said, "Look, I'm sure Oliver is great, but honestly, he's just a baby. All babies are kind of boring at this age. He can't talk, he can't play games, he just exists, and I have actual work to do." Her face fell and she mumbled something about finding someone who appreciates children before leaving. Now both Johnsons give me death glares in the hallway, and apparently they've told everyone in our building that I hate babies. Yesterday, they slipped a passive-aggressive note under my door asking me to keep it down after 7 p.m. because it disturbs Oliver's sleep schedule. I was literally just watching TV at normal volume. AITA for being honest about not finding their baby interesting and refusing to be their emergency childcare. To clarify, I don't hate babies, I just don't find them particularly entertaining, and I definitely don't think it's my responsibility to drop everything for someone else's child.
AITA for eating my coworker's lunch after he stole my parking spot for a month. I, 32M, work at a mid-sized company where parking is tight. Last year, I won the monthly employee raffle and got the coveted premium parking spot right by the entrance for a full year. It's specifically marked with my name. Enter Kevin, 40M, who transferred from another branch 2 months ago. On his first day, he parked in my spot. I politely explained the situation and he apologized, claiming he didn't know. Fine, honest mistake. But the next day, he did it again. And the next, and the next. For 4 weeks, Kevin parked in my spot, forcing me to park in the far lot and walk 10 minutes. Every time I confronted him, he had excuses. Oh, my knee was hurting. I had a meeting. It was raining, etc. I complained to HR, who sent a company-wide email about respecting assigned parking. Kevin ignored it. My boss said it wasn't worth creating drama over. So I found another way to get revenge. Kevin brings these elaborate homemade lunches every day, bragging about his meal prep Sundays and how his wife makes the best lasagna in the state. He stores them in the communal fridge with his name clearly labeled. For the past week, I've been eating his lunches. Not all of it, just enough that he notices. I take half his sandwich or a few forkfuls of pasta, then put it back. Yesterday, I heard him complaining to others about someone messing with his food. Today, he caught me in the act. He went ballistic, calling me psychotic and threatening to report me. I calmly said, "Weird how it feels when someone takes something clearly marked with your name, isn't it?" AITA for teaching Kevin a lesson about respecting other people's property? Wow, didn't expect this to blow up. For those saying food tampering is worse than parking, I never touched his food with anything but a clean fork, and he's been making me late to important meetings for weeks. AITA for kidnapping my nephew from his vegan birthday party? My sister 34F and her husband went vegan 3 years ago, and since then they've forced their lifestyle on my nephew Jake, now 10M. I don't have issues with adults choosing veganism, but I think forcing it on growing kids is wrong. Yesterday was Jake's birthday. I arrived at their house to find a party with 5 kids sitting awkwardly around a table with a sad-looking carrot cake, no frosting, vegetable platters, and some kind of chickpea nuggets. No pizza, no ice cream, no normal kid food. When Jake saw me, he ran over and whispered, "Uncle Mike, this party sucks. Tommy already went home." The poor kid looked miserable on his own birthday. I made a split-second decision. I told my sister I was taking Jake to the bathroom, but instead, I grabbed his jacket and said, "Want to have a real birthday?" His eyes lit up and he nodded enthusiastically. We snuck out to my car and drove to the local pizza place. I ordered a large pepperoni pizza, real ice cream, and the staff even sang happy birthday. Jake was beaming the whole time, telling me it was the best birthday ever. When we returned 2 hours later, my sister was frantic. She called my phone repeatedly. I had it on silent and was about to call the police. When she saw Jake with pizza sauce on his shirt, she lost it. She screamed that I kidnapped her son, poisoned him with animal products, and undermined her parental authority. Jake tried defending me, saying it was the most fun he'd had in forever, which just made her angrier. Now my sister has banned me from seeing Jake unsupervised and told our entire family I'm a child-endangering carnist. AITA for giving my nephew a normal birthday experience? For those asking, yes, Jake has told me multiple times he hates vegan food and sneaks regular food at friends' houses. And no, he doesn't have any health conditions requiring a vegan diet.
AITA for refusing to give my brother my house that I don't even use? I 36F inherited our grandparents' farmhouse when they passed 5 years ago. It's a beautiful 150-year-old home on 10 acres about 2 hours from where I live. The will specifically left it to me, as I was the only grandchild who visited regularly and helped maintain it during their final years. I use the farmhouse as a weekend retreat about once a month. I've put considerable money into renovations, $70 K plus, to fix the roof, update plumbing, and restore original features. I also use it to host family holidays. My brother Jake, 40, has always been jealous that I inherited the house. He visited maybe twice in the decade before our grandparents died, but suddenly became very interested after their passing. Last week, Jake announced that he lost his job and is getting divorced. He called demanding that I share the inheritance by giving him the farmhouse. His reasoning? You have your own place in the city and barely use the farm. I need somewhere to live and could be there full time. I refused, suggesting he could stay there temporarily, 3 months max, while he sorts things out. He exploded, saying I was hoarding family property and that our grandparents never meant for one person to keep it all. Now my parents are involved, saying I should help family in need and that it doesn't make sense for a house to sit empty most of the time. Jake has started telling relatives I'm heartless and greedy. AITA for refusing to give up a property that was legally left to me just because my brother is going through a rough patch. To clarify, Jake has a history of not maintaining his own properties well, and he's terrible with money. I have zero confidence he would be able to pay property taxes or maintenance costs. AITA for stealing my boyfriend's dream job opportunity. I, 27 female, have been dating Rob, 29 M, for 3 years. We both work in marketing, but at different companies. For the past year, Rob has been talking nonstop about landing a job at Apex Media, a prestigious agency in our city. He applied several times, but never made it past the initial interview. 2 weeks ago, I was headhunted on LinkedIn by a recruiter for, you guessed it, Apex Media. They were looking for someone with my exact skill set for a senior position. I mentioned this to Rob, who immediately got weird and said, "That's my dream company. You shouldn't apply there." I was shocked. The position was perfect for me, offered a 30% salary increase, and had better benefits than my current job. When I pointed this out, Rob said I was being selfish and should support his career goals by stepping aside. I applied anyway. Yesterday, I received an offer, which I accepted. When I told Rob, he completely lost it, saying I stabbed him in the back and stole his future. He's now telling our mutual friends that I deliberately sabotaged his career path. Here's the thing. The position I was offered requires 7+ years of experience and specific skills Rob doesn't have. He literally couldn't have qualified for this role. He's applying for mid-level positions there, which are completely different departments. Now he's giving me the silent treatment, and his sister texted me saying I'm a career-stealing B-teach who put professional advancement above love. AITA for accepting a job at the company my boyfriend wanted to work at? Thanks for all the responses. To answer common questions, no, I won't be his supervisor if he eventually gets hired there. And yes, I did encourage him to keep applying for positions he's qualified for.
AITA for not moving seats on a plane so a mother could sit with her child. I, 34M, was flying cross-country yesterday. I specifically paid extra for an aisle seat in an exit row and checked in online exactly 24 hours before the flight to secure it. I boarded early, got settled with my noise-canceling headphones, and was looking forward to a peaceful 6-hour flight. Just before takeoff, a woman, 40 SF, tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Excuse me, would you mind switching seats with my son? He's only 8 and this is his first flight." I looked over to see her son sitting in a middle seat about 10 rows back. I politely declined, explaining that I had specifically paid extra for this seat. She got immediately hostile, saying, "It's just a seat. Don't you care that a child is scared to fly alone?" I pointed out that I had paid a premium for my specific seat and suggested she ask the flight attendant for help finding someone else willing to swap. Instead, she started loudly announcing to everyone around us what a heartless person I was for refusing to let a mother sit with her terrified child. Several passengers gave me dirty looks, and one older woman muttered something about young people today having no compassion. The flight attendant eventually got involved and found someone else willing to switch, but the mother continued glaring at me throughout the flight and accidentally bumped my arm every time she walked past. AITA for not giving up the seat I paid extra for. I feel like her poor planning isn't my emergency. Several people have asked. Yes, the seat her son was in was a standard economy seat, not an exit row or premium seat. She wanted my better seat and would have given me a worse one. AITA for throwing away my fiance's sentimental collection of fast food sauce packets. I, 31M, have been living with my fiancée Nina, 29F, for 2 years. We're getting married in 3 months. Everything was great until I discovered her bizarre hoarding habit. Nina has been collecting fast food sauce packets since college. Not just a few, we're talking thousands. Ketchup, mustard, soy sauce, taco sauce, those little Chick-fil-A sauces, duck sauce from Chinese takeout. You name it, she has dozens of each. She kept them in 6 large shoeboxes in our pantry. Some packets were 8 years old. When I asked about it, she said they were sentimental and reminded her of good times in her life. She claimed she could remember where each packet came from, like the taco sauce from her first date with her ex, or the soy sauce from celebrating her college graduation. Last week, while Nina was visiting her parents, I decided to deep clean our apartment for spring. The sauce packets were taking up valuable storage space and frankly grossing me out. Most were expired and some were even leaking. I threw them all away. When Nina returned and discovered her collection was gone, she completely broke down. She was sobbing uncontrollably, saying I threw away her memories and had no right to touch her personal belongings. She called her mother, who then called me to say I was controlling and insensitive. Nina is now staying with her friend and threatening to postpone the wedding unless I make it right. But how am I supposed to retrieve garbage that was picked up days ago? AITA for disposing of what I considered trash but she considered treasured mementos? To those asking why I didn't just ask her first, I've mentioned the sauce collection, bothering me several times before. And she always got defensive. AITA for changing my Wi-Fi password after my neighbors let their kids use my pool without permission. I, 42, own a house with a nice backyard pool in a family neighborhood. The neighbors to my right, the Smiths, moved in last summer with their 3 kids, ages 8 to 14. We were initially friendly, exchanged numbers, occasional BBQs, that sort of thing. At some point, I shared my Wi-Fi password with Mrs. Smith when their internet was down during her work-from-home day. No big deal. Last Tuesday, I came home early from work to find all 3 Smith kids plus 2 friends splashing around in my pool. No adults anywhere. They had apparently jumped the fence while I was at work. I immediately told them to leave, called Mrs. Smith and explained this was dangerous and unacceptable. She was apologetic, saying, "The kids were just so hot and they knew you wouldn't mind since we're neighbors." I made it clear I absolutely did mind unauthorized people using my pool when I wasn't home. The next day, I installed security cameras and changed all my passwords, Wi-Fi included. 2 days later, Mrs. Smith knocked on my door asking why their internet wasn't working anymore. Turns out, they'd been connecting to my Wi-Fi this entire time to avoid paying for their own higher data plan. When I explained I changed the password after the pool incident, she got angry, saying I was punishing the whole family for a small mistake. Mr. Smith came over that evening demanding the new password, saying their kids couldn't do homework without internet. Now the entire neighborhood is divided.
AITA for intentionally ruining my best friend's wedding photos by being too tall. I, 31 female, have been best friends with Megan, 30F, since high school. I'm 6'3" and have always been tall. It's just genetics. Megan is 5'2". This height difference has never been an issue in our 15-year friendship until her wedding last month. Megan asked me to be her maid of honor, which I was thrilled about. I helped with everything, planning the bachelorette, addressing invitations, calming her pre-wedding jitters, the works. At the wedding rehearsal, Megan suddenly announced she had special instructions for me during the ceremony and photos. She asked me to slouch during the processional, stand with bent knees during the ceremony, and position myself behind shorter bridesmaids in all photos. I laughed, thinking she was joking. She wasn't. She said, "I've been dreaming of these photos my whole life, and they won't look right with you towering over everyone." I refused to hunch over for hours, explaining it would hurt my back and look ridiculous. I suggested she could arrange people in seated poses or on different levels for photos if she was concerned. The wedding day came, and I stood normally. The photographer actually used our height difference creatively, getting some beautiful shots. When Megan got her photos back, she called me crying, saying I deliberately sabotaged her wedding pictures by standing out and making her look like a child next to me. She's now demanding I pay to have the photos professionally edited to make me shorter. Her mother has joined in, telling mutual friends I was selfish for not doing one simple thing on Megan's special day. AITA for refusing to physically shrink myself for my friend's wedding aesthetics. Yes, Megan knew my height when she asked me to be maid of honor. We've taken hundreds of photos together over the years. AITA for demanding my sister return our grandmother's ring after she broke off her engagement. My grandmother left her antique diamond ring to me, 31F, before she passed, saying it was for the first granddaughter who gets married. At the time, I was single, while my sister Emma, 27F, had been with her boyfriend for 5 years. When Emma got engaged last year, I honored grandmother's wishes and gave her the ring, even though I had recently started dating someone. It was a beautiful 1920s Art Deco piece with our grandmother's initials engraved inside. Emma was thrilled and promised to treasure it forever. 3 weeks ago, Emma abruptly called off her engagement after discovering her fiancé had been cheating. I sympathized with her heartbreak, but last week I gently asked when she planned to return the ring since the condition of getting married wouldn't be fulfilled. She completely lost it, saying the ring was given as a gift and that I was heartless for asking about jewelry while she was devastated. She then revealed she's already sold the ring to help pay for the non-refundable wedding venue deposits. I was shocked. That ring had been in our family for generations and had tremendous sentimental value. I told her she had no right to sell it and demanded she buy it back from whoever purchased it. Now my parents are involved, saying I should let it go since Emma is going through enough already. But I feel like she betrayed both me and our grandmother's memory by selling a cherished family heirloom. AITA for insisting my sister recover our grandmother's ring after her broken engagement. To those asking, yes, it was clear the ring was contingent on marriage actually happening, not just an engagement. And no, I wasn't expecting her to return it immediately during her grief, but selling it without discussing with family is what upset me.
AITA for not telling my wife that her homemade cookies won the bake-off against her rival. My wife, 34F, and our neighbor Carol, 36F, have had this weird competitive relationship ever since Carol moved in 2 years ago. It started with garden competitions, then holiday decorations, and now it's baking. Last week was our community's annual bake-off. My wife spent days perfecting her chocolate chip cookie recipe, determined to finally beat Carol, who has won 3 years in a row. The morning of the competition, disaster struck. My wife burned her final batch and had no time to make more. She was in tears, knowing Carol would gloat for months. In a panic, I ran to the store and bought premium cookies from a local bakery, carefully transferred them to my wife's container, and submitted them as hers. I genuinely thought they wouldn't win and just wanted to save her from embarrassment. Plot twist, the cookies won first place. Carol was visibly upset, and my wife was ecstatic, proudly accepting compliments about her recipe. Now she's planning to share her winning recipe on social media and even submitted it to her community cookbook. I've created a monster. Every time she mentions her baking triumph, I feel terrible. But telling her now would crush her and humiliate her in front of Carol and the entire neighborhood. AITA for maintaining this lie that's spiraling out of control? Many people have asked, no, I don't know what the actual bakery recipe is, so I have no idea what recipe she's planning to share. And yes, Carol has been insufferable about her wins in the past, including suggesting my wife stick to store-bought after last year's contest.
AITA for destroying a child's art project by cleaning our shared apartment. I, 24F, live with 2 roommates in a small 3-bedroom apartment. One roommate, Jen, 29F, has a 6-year-old son, Tyler, who stays with her every other weekend. I've always been supportive of this arrangement, despite our lease technically not allowing children. Tyler is generally well-behaved, but Jen has a habit of letting him spread his toys and art projects throughout our common areas. Last Sunday, I came home from an overnight trip to find our living room covered in an elaborate spaceship made from cardboard boxes, aluminum foil, and lots of glitter glue. It took up most of the floor space, making it hard to even walk through the room. There was also a note from Jen saying she took Tyler to the park and they'd finish the project later. After waiting 3 hours and texting Jen, who said they were now at her mother's house and would be back eventually, I decided to clean up. Our living room isn't Tyler's personal art studio, and I needed to use the space. When Jen finally returned, she went ballistic, screaming that I had destroyed Tyler's masterpiece and crushed his creative spirit. Tyler started crying, saying he'd worked 100 hours on it. It was made yesterday. Jen demanded I apologize and somehow fix what I'd disassembled. I refused, explaining that common areas need to remain usable for everyone. Now Jen is telling mutual friends I hate children and deliberately waited until they left to destroy Tyler's art. AITA for cleaning up an art project that was blocking our shared living space. Yes, I did carefully fold the cardboard and save all salvageable materials, and no, there was no prior discussion about using the entire living room as an art space for the weekend.
AITA for telling my coworker the truth about why he's not getting promoted. I, 36M, have worked at my company for 8 years. I'm not management, just a senior developer who's been around long enough to know how things work. My coworker Mike, 31, joined our team 2 years ago. He's technically brilliant, but has terrible social skills. He interrupts people in meetings, dismisses others' ideas as stupid, and once made an intern cry by criticizing her code in front of everyone. Despite this, Mike is convinced he deserves a promotion. For months, he's been complaining that office politics and favoritism are keeping him from advancing. Yesterday, after being passed over again, he stormed into the break room where I was having lunch alone and started ranting. When he asked me directly why idiots were getting promoted over him, I finally told him the truth. Mike, you're not getting promoted because you're impossible to work with. Your technical skills are great, but you make people feel small, you don't collaborate, and management won't put someone like that in charge of others. He went silent, then left without a word. Today, HR called me in because Mike filed a complaint claiming I bullied and humiliated him. Our manager is annoyed that I created drama instead of directing Mike to him or HR for feedback. Now, several coworkers are thanking me privately for finally saying what everyone thinks, while others are saying I should have been more diplomatic. AITA, for telling my coworker the blunt truth about his workplace behavior. For those asking, yes, I have gently tried to give him feedback before. He always dismissed it as me not understanding technical excellence. AITA for abandoning my date at a restaurant after she ordered the most expensive items, then admitted it was for social media. I, 28M, matched with Olivia, 25F, on a dating app last month. We had great conversations, similar interests, and finally agreed to meet for dinner at a nice, but not super fancy, Italian restaurant in my neighborhood. The date started well, good conversation, lots of laughing. When it came time to order, Olivia asked for the most expensive wine on the menu, $140, the seafood platter appetizer, $65, and the Wagyu steak special, $85. I ordered modestly, a bit surprised at her choices since we'd previously talked about being financially responsible. After ordering, Olivia immediately started taking photos of everything, the menu, the wine, the table setting. She then asked the waiter to take several pictures of us together. Again, a bit weird, but I went with it. Halfway through the appetizer, which she barely touched, Olivia casually mentioned that she runs a dating experience TikTok account where she reviews first dates in restaurants. She explained that she always orders the most expensive items because followers expect luxury content and guys should pay to impress anyway. I excused myself to the bathroom, processed what she'd said, and realized I was being used as content for her social media. I returned to the table, calmly told her I wasn't interested in being part of her content, paid for my own meal, appetizer and wine hadn't been touched yet, and left. She's now blowing up my phone saying I humiliated her and left her with a huge bill she obviously couldn't afford since she's just a content creator. Mutual friends say I should have at least paid half of everything since I agreed to the date. AITA for walking out on a date who was just using me for TikTok content? She has indeed posted about this, painting me as the villain. The comments are split between people calling me cheap and others defending me. AITA for not letting my pregnant sister and her family move into my house after they sold theirs. My sister Lisa, 32F, and her husband Rob, 34M, decided to sell their house 3 months ago to upgrade to something bigger before their third child arrives. They got an amazing offer and quickly accepted with a 45-day closing. They assumed they'd find a new place immediately in this hot market and didn't secure temporary housing. Surprise! They didn't find anything they liked in their price range, and now they're closing on their old house next week with nowhere to go. Yesterday, Lisa called asking, more like telling, me that they need to move into my 2-bedroom condo just for a month or two until they find their forever home. This would mean me, my sister, her husband, their 2 kids, 4 and 6, and their dog all crammed into my small space. I said no. I work from home in my 2nd bedroom, have a cat who hates dogs, and frankly, Lisa's kids are exhausting, sweet, but loud and always touching everything. I suggested they rent a short-term apartment or stay with our parents who have a much larger house. Lisa burst into tears, saying they can't afford rent and a mortgage down payment and that our parents' house is too far from the kids' school. She accused me of being selfish since I have all this space. I don't, and said that family should help family, and that I'm punishing her children and unborn baby for their simple miscalculation. Now, our entire family is blowing up my phone, saying I'm heartless for not helping my pregnant sister in need. My parents claim their house is undergoing renovations. It isn't, and can't take them. AITA for refusing to turn my peaceful home into temporary housing for my sister's family after their poor planning. To clarify some questions, yes, they've known their closing date for 45 days, and no, they didn't look for rentals until this week. They truly expected to buy immediately.